With the Biden administration and NATO driving us directly off of a cliff and into World War III and nuclear holocaust, you don't hate the federal government anywhere near enough. And on this week's episode of the news, we're going to talk about it. So I believe that the First Amendment is the single greatest piece of legislation ever written by mankind, and I think it's really important to constantly and consistently clarify what the First Amendment says and what it does. The First Amendment does not grant you your right to free speech. The First Amendment says that you have a natural, unalienable right to free speech, and that the federal government can never in any way censor or trample that right. What's interesting to me is that I got a message this morning on my Instagram, and I love having open discourse with you guys on my Instagram and my Twitter. I love going back and forth with you guys and defending my positions. It is in the defense of your beliefs that you strengthen your beliefs, and it's in the open discourse between other people that you grow your beliefs, that you figure out who you are and what you like and what you think. If you're not having that open discourse, then you don't actually have any beliefs. You're just regurgitating that was said to you.
School is for fools. Look at me.
To say that I'm anti-American or that my views or my takes or anything about my content is anti-American is totally wild to me. I am not anti-American. I don't think that there's ever been a moment in my entire life that I was anti-American. I'm from a military family. I am a military vet. I was a firefighter. I now argue for American politics and a change in our society. I argue for American actual core values, the actual Bill of Rights, and I argue for the American family. If you're saying that you have looked at any of my things and think that I'm anti-American, what you actually mean is that I'm anti-government, and you're correct. I'm super anti-government. I'm the most anti-government. I think that the entire federal government should be drug out back and just put on unemployment. Why do any of them have a job? Within 48 hours of President Trump winning the election, China, Russia, and every terrorist organization worth note all released public statements saying that they wanted to sit down, have peace talks, and they wanted to de-escalate tensions around the world. Why in God's name would the Biden administration shoot long-range rockets into Russia? Longer, more bigger, worse rockets than we've used at any other point in the war? It's an obvious escalation of force. Why? Why is there a NATO admiral saying that we need to give Ukraine nuclear weapons and cross literally every single red line that Putin has ever had?
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
Does everyone fully understand the fact that the Ukrainian conflict should have never happened and is very much on our plate? We did that. We started that. We were the aggressors. At the very same time that they increased tensions with Russia, they're also ratcheting up tensions with China, our direct near-peer adversary and the person that we are locked in a Cold War with. All of this is happening while the Pentagon fails its 7th audit in a row. The Pentagon for the 7th year in a row was only able to account for about 33% of the funding that it takes in. That's absolutely atrocious. When you file your taxes at the end of the year, can you only be accountable for 33% of the money that you made? It's completely insane that anyone in this country thinks that being against the government is somehow against America. It's being against the government that made us America in the first fucking place, right? You don't hate the federal government anywhere near enough. We have allowed it to grow and expand and become this megalithic giant of censorship, corruption, and oppression. It's only a matter of time until the federal government, as it is constructed right now, outright turns on the American people. And I really don't know what the argument is to say that they haven't already. In 1913, the federal government instituted the income tax, which would take a portion of every dollar that you made. At the same time in 1913, the federal government instituted the Federal Reserve, which, although creatively named, is a private banking institution and not a part of the federal government. The Federal Reserve has the ability to control inflation rates, so the Federal Reserve can make your dollar worth less. So the federal government can take a piece of it, and the Federal Reserve can make it worth less. They have been waging economic war on the American people because we picked the wrong president in 2016. They have destroyed our economy, they have started multiple wars, and no matter how much the American people, no matter how much Europe, no matter how much Russia says that they would like to de-escalate, we continue to escalate that conflict. What is the reason for that? Why would we continue to escalate the conflict? And can you in good faith tell me that if the Obama administration with Fauci built a lab in another country and were conducting gain-of-function research in that country, and from that very lab a global was leaked, can you honestly say that we weren't responsible for that?
And there's more.
So yes, I am extremely pro-America. I am extremely pro-American, but I am extremely anti-American government. Thomas Paine said in The Rights of Man that a law not repealed continues in force, not because it cannot be repealed, but because it is not repealed, and the non-repealing passes for consent. You can't tell me that because I want to limit the scope and strength of the federal government, you can't tell me that because I want to repeal laws that have been passed by generations of people that are no longer alive and with us anymore, that makes me anti-American. It is the active participation in our government that makes America America. That is what makes the American experiment an experiment. Me and you, we the people, are the ones that are in charge. It's time that we, the American people, take control of our government back. It's actively waging an economic war against us, and if we let it continue, they're gonna start outright World War III. We are capable of better, we know better, and the generations that follow us deserve better. Trump winning the election wasn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of the next fight, and this fight's gonna be big, it's gonna be gross, and it really could include global conflict. The powers that be aren't just here in the United States, they're in Zurich, they're in the WEF, they're in UN, they're in NATO. So this year for the holidays, remember the importance of the American family. It's the American family that will rebuild this country, because if everything else explodes, the American family is the only thing that's left. And American men do the right thing in the absence of orders. We stand on a moral code regardless of the consequences. That's what makes us American. You should criticize your government, and we should be involved in our government. And right now, our government needs a purging. It has gotten too big and too gross and too corrupt, and it has gone too far. Exercising the First Amendment only happens with a strong Second Amendment. It is your responsibility to be armed, to arm others, to arm your family, and to know how to use that equipment. It's your responsibility to be able to defend yourself against tyrannical governments. That is the torch that the Founding Fathers handed down to us. The Founding Fathers didn't just set up a system for us to live in. They told us that we had a responsibility to maintain that system. They told us, the American man, that we needed to guard that government, that we needed to protect our families and free people from the government. The Founding Fathers didn't just write us a Bill of Rights. The Founding Fathers gave us a responsibility, and it's our responsibility to see that this American experiment continues on into the future. So remember, it's okay to be dangerous. I'll see you soon.